Hello. How's it going? Happy Wednesday, or whatever day it is by you. My name is Keith. I'm your meditation teacher here on this channel, Meditation Breaks. So if this is your first time here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. And if you are brand new, never tried meditation before, don't worry. This is a great opportunity for you. There's no prerequisites for any of these live streams. We do them every week. We always talk about a specific topic in meditation, but prior to that, we start with the basics. So if this is literally your first entry point, this class in particular, actually, I think is a really good one because we're going to talk about some things to try to expand what we think counts as meditation. This is one of my favorite classes to teach. Right? Hey, Riley, Sandra, Brenda, Rosa, hello. If you have any questions while we're, talking or meditating or whatever, I have my eyes closed, so I can't see your questions. But when I open them, I certainly can, and then I will answer them. The point is, there is no need to wait to ask any questions. So if something comes up, doesn't make sense, you just had a thought of something that you can relate to, feel free to put it in the chat. And if for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable doing that, totally understand. I'm going to get my email out towards the end of the live stream, and you can just email me any questions that you have. All right. So we'll get started. MB, it has been a while. Welcome back. So we're going to get started. And as I said, we always start with an introduction to what is meditation. And then this introduction really dovetails very nicely into what we're going to talk about a little bit later in the live stream. But what is meditation? You ever think about that? What is this meditation thing everyone's talking about? Now, we all may have our own definition, but we share an image, don't we? And that image is of somebody sitting cross-legged on the floor, lay your hands like this or something. They always look super, super calm, too, and happy, You never see any of those stock images of anyone struggling, Oh, my mind's really busy. No, they look blissful. So this is our image of meditating, sitting on the floor, usually very shiny and wood, and, cross-legged and our hands like this, right? So this is our way to meditate. You can meditate sitting down, cross-legged on a wood floor with your eyes closed. But you don't have to. This is not the one way to meditate. It's not as if you decide to sit into a chair, it doesn't work as well. That's not the case at all, right? Riley, great definition of meditation. Choosing to focus on something and pulling yourself back when you aren't focusing on it. Exactly, right? We're going to talk a lot about that today because we're going to start to think about things that might count as meditation that maybe we hadn't really considered before, right? So, what is meditation if not sitting down on the floor cross-legged? I think a pretty good way of thinking about what we are doing with this meditation thing is meditation is a technique that we use to train our mind to become really familiar with something. Right. So that is not something that we go around saying all day, right? We're not like, well, I am going to familiarize my mind with how to make this recipe. We don't say that. I'm going to familiarize my mind with how, best to do this task at work. We do not say that. But even though we do not say that, it's happening constantly, all day long. Our mind is always learning, always becoming familiar with things, right? And we don't really have to look very far to see that in action. Now, even though we don't really think about our mind becoming familiar with stuff, we often will think about our body becoming familiar with things. So if let's say you're I don't know, you're trying to work out. You're trying to change trying to be a little bit more active. Maybe you're going to the gym or you're walking around the block, right? Hey, dreams. What do we say when we're like training in this way, right? We're like, all right, at first it's pretty hard, right? I can't really walk that far, but a little bit each day becomes a little easier, right? You start to kind of get into a groove, right? So what's happening there? We are becoming familiar with this activity. In this case, exercise. Should take some notes for myself. So what is the byproduct of becoming familiar with something then? Right? And it's the same for everything, even though it kind of shows maybe a little differently. The kind of outcome, the output of becoming familiar with something is it comes easier to us. We don't have to try as hard. It's a little bit more second nature, So whether it's riding a bike, learning to walk, and learning a new language, like all these things, very difficult at first, right? Hey, Mary. But over time, become a lot easier. And the only thing that's changing is repetition, right? We're practicing it. We are slowly becoming so familiar with this activity that everything involved in doing this activity doesn't require as much of our energy, right? So good news, the same is true for our mind and mind states. So a lot of people get into meditation to learn how to relax, to be less stressed, to be more peaceful. Meditation, spoilers, meditation doesn't make you more peaceful. What meditation does is teaches you to become super familiar with relaxed you, that kind of version of yourself that's in there, deep in there, that is very relaxed, right? And even if we don't really consider ourselves to be a very relaxed person, if we're honest and we think about it, there are plenty of times that version of ourself has come out. It's in there, right? It's not like meditation creates that. Meditation teaches us where it is, right? It teaches us to become so familiar with finding it, right, that it starts to just pop up more often. And while most people get into meditation for learning how to be relaxed, this technique is not just reserved for relaxing. It can be used to become really familiar with gratitude, right? Appreciating the things that other people have done, right? Being kind to ourselves. That's a tough one, right? A lot of us, we've built up a habit of not being very kind to ourselves. We're hard on ourselves, right? And this is all learned behavior. And meditation is a great way of starting to redetermine what we want to be super familiar with for the purpose of having that thing start to become our default state, show up without as much effort, right? Right now, we got to try hard to be nice to ourselves, right? Sometimes, some of us, right? We don't have to try hard to get angry. That's for sure. That comes super natural to us because we've been practicing getting frustrated quite a lot. So this is a very kind of simple concept at like on the surface, right? You're like, yeah, the more you do something, like, okay, the easier that it kind of becomes. Like, hello, Keith, I know that. But we don't often think that truth, that rule applies to our mind, right? In the sense of like relaxing and anxiety and stress and all this stuff, right? So that's what we're going to learn how to do with meditation. And the first kind of foray into learning how to go about doing this, practice this technique, generally is breathing meditation. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. If you are like quasi new to meditation, maybe you tried it a couple times, probably try breathing meditation. I think one of the best parts of breathing meditation is that it teaches you a very important thing, that you don't need specific circumstances to do this, right? You might like them, but you don't need them. You just need your breath, right? You don't need to go on a retreat. Right? You don't need to, disconnect your phone. You don't have to do any of these things to like unplug or whatever. You just need your breath and a little bit of patience and time, and you can practice this technique and see wonderful benefits from it. So we're going to do a little breathing meditation together to get started. And if you want to get really fancy about it, we call it single-pointed concentration. So single-pointed concentration, what does that mean? Single-pointed, one, concentration, focus. We have one focus. We are intentionally choosing to focus on one thing. Now, we are not familiar with doing this. Even if you're like, I'm not a good multitasker, you are. We're all super good at multitasking. I just took a sip of water while talking or thinking what I'm going to say. Like, that's multitasking, right? Might not be, heavy lift multitasking, but it is multitasking nonetheless. And so we are going to intentionally not multitask. And your mind may put up some resistance. And that's fine, because your mind does what your mind is used to. All right. Your mind is like a pet. All right. And let's say we have this pet, and for 10 years, we let the dog get on the couch. And then one day we're like, I don't want the dog on the couch. I just got this new couch. You're not allowed on the couch. And the dog's like, wait, why? Like if we started with the dog never being allowed on the couch, the dog would be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to go on the couch. I don't go on the couch. But if we try to switch it, right? Sometimes there's confusion. So our mind is like our pet. And what we want to do is begin to be a very good mind pet owner. So we have to teach our mind some different techniques. And it is a slow burn. You will not leave today having your entire life changed, and you'll never be angry again. That's not what's going to happen. But you will leave today with the tools you need to get there at your own pace. Cool? Mary, self-appreciation is important to meditate on. Hard sometimes to concentrate on, though. Yes, absolutely. That is a tough one, right? Because it's painful. We don't like thinking, about ourself in that way. For some of us, it's very, very tough. We avoid it at all costs, right? So we're going to start with something a little more simple than that. But absolutely, totally agree with you. Okay, so guess what? Great news. Single points of concentration / breathing meditation only has 3 steps. 6 a.m. in India, starting your day on a good note. Amazing. Welcome. So 3 steps to do this. The first is we are going to actively make a choice here to focus on our breath. I know that sounds ridiculous. You're like, okay, that's like a complete waste of my time. Why? I'm just going to focus on my breath. I don't need to. But we're practicing something very important. We're practicing intentionally teaching our mind that it is time to focus on one thing. Right? Sometimes we accidentally meditate, right? You ever been in the zone at work? Like, we're super plugged in, lose track of time. Our knee doesn't hurt. We don't hear people calling our name. Like, we're in a kind of like meditative state because we're so single-pointedly focused on something. But we want to start to do this intentionally, right? To train our mind, right? So we're going to just say to ourselves, for the next 5 minutes or whatever, I am just going to focus on my breath, and that's it. Right? We don't have to believe it. You just say it. And then I will be guiding us through this breathing exercise. And whenever you notice that your attention is no longer 100% on your breath, it doesn't need to be like completely distracted. Maybe you just like have a thought like, oh, yeah, what am I going to have for dinner? Oh, well, I was thinking about dinner there, right? Whenever we notice that our mind is drifting a bit, we can just be like, not right now to those thoughts. That's our little kind of saying here, not right now. Because those thoughts are important. We will get to them later, but we're in charge, not our mind. And so then we want to bring our attention back to breathing. That's the last step. So we choose to focus single-pointedly on our breath. We notice when our attention drifts, and we bring it on back. That's it. This is the practice of breathing meditation. And it may kind of seem pretty basic on the surface, but we are teaching ourselves a very important thing. We are teaching our mind to focus on what we want to focus on. Wouldn't that be nice? Right? Our mind is usually focusing on whatever it wants to. And so if your mind is drifting a lot, don't worry. Like, of course it's going to drift a lot. This is what your mind is used to. The goal here is not perfection. The goal with meditation is never to like have zero distraction, but to become really like a pro at noticing when you're distracted and then being able to get back on track. That's it. Okay? So let's do a little breathing meditation together. Now, I am sitting in a chair, a comfy little office chair. You, too, can sit in a comfy chair. You do not need to sit on a hardwood floor with your legs crossed in an uncomfortable position. Do whatever you want. Whatever comes natural to you. You want to lay down, all right? Maybe 6 a.m. is early. You just want to lay back down for a little while. Then go ahead and do that. Doesn't matter. There's no like prerequisite for seating position. Okay. And you can go ahead and close your eyes. This will help with some of the visual distractions. And I'm going to guide us through about a 5-minute breathing meditation. Okay. Whenever we start a meditation, take a moment and check in with yourself. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? In this exact moment, what is my mind up to? Maybe we're feeling energetic, just getting ready to start our day. Or maybe we're feeling tired after a long day at work. Maybe we have a happy mind. Or maybe our mind's a little melancholy. Whatever it is, it does not matter. We are not doing anything about it. All we are doing is noticing, practicing being an observer of your own mind. This is a very important technique called mindfulness. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your own thoughts, moment to moment, for the purpose of being able to respond skillfully to those thoughts. Take a moment and check in. And having done that, you can now make a promise to yourself, a choice. You can choose to focus single-pointedly on your own breath. Breathing in, breathing out, very gently and very naturally. You do not need to change anything about the way you normally breathe here. No need for big, deep inhales. No need for forceful exhales. However you normally breathe, that's what I want you to do. In and out, gently, naturally. As you begin to relax a little bit into your seat. At some point, you'll notice your mind drifting. This is what minds do. They want to think. Whenever you notice that your attention is no longer exclusively on your breath, maybe you're thinking about something happened earlier, something coming up later, whatever it is. Whenever you notice that, we can just say, not right now to those thoughts. We will get to them later. And then guide your attention, your full, undivided attention, back to your breath. Breathing in and breathing out gently, naturally. We're single-pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. See if you can do that. See if you can follow the entire journey that the air makes as you breathe. Every time you inhale, can you imagine the air entering your body, filling your lungs? And then every time you exhale, can you imagine that air exiting back into the atmosphere, dissipating? Single-pointedly focused, interested in each and every moment of your breath, breathing in and breathing out, gently and naturally. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath whenever you notice drifting a bit. This process of choosing to focus on your own breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and then being able to guide your attention back to your breath. That is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to become familiar with peacefulness. You are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. And right now, the only thing that you want to focus on is breathing in, breathing out, gently and naturally. As you begin to relax even more into your seat. Just for the last few moments, just sit here and enjoy being here with your breath. You don't have to think too much. Just take a moment to yourself. You deserve it. Okay. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. Well, hello there. How'd that go? That was a pretty standard breathing meditation, and it didn't take too long, right? So this is a common misconception that we have about meditation, that we have to do it for hours on end. No! That is very hard to sit like that for a long time. So when you're getting started with meditation, the thing that is more important than anything else, literally, nothing else matters more than this, is consistency, right? It's not the amount of time you sit down per session and do, whatever. It's consistency, right? This is how we learn. And this is just another way of learning. We learn by repetition. So maybe that was like really challenging for you and long to sit there. So when you're building your own routine, and we're going to talk a lot about how to build like a kind of a routine that really works for you today. A big part of that is thinking about, what can I commit to once a day? Right? 2 minutes? Cool. 1 minute? Fine. 30 seconds? Perfect. Doesn't matter. Right? Aim low. Because then we can always increase, right? But we want to get some small wins. We want to teach ourselves, you know what, I can do this. This is manageable for me. All right? Okay. So that was a little quick snippet of breathing meditation, and I want to move on because this topic that we're going to talk about is, I think it's probably the most practical approach to meditation in kind of like modern life. And as such, I would like to spend some time talking about it because I think it's pretty valuable. So that's why I'm kind of cruising a little bit. But absolutely feel free to ask me any questions about breathing meditation if they come up. All right? So who here's busy? Me, right? We all are very busy. All right? And we all have different definitions of what that is. But I think it's safe to say that none of us have a shortage of things to do. A lot of things on the old to-do list, we got a lot of responsibilities that we have to think about each day. If we have a job, that takes up a lot of our effort, a lot of our energy. We got to, get there on time. We got to think critically, whatever. Family, right? We got a family. It takes a lot of responsibility, a lot of our time, right? Then we have some hobbies that we like, if we ever get to those. Right? There's just a lot. And so when, old Keith comes here and he's like, hey, it'd be cool if you meditate. You'd be like, oh yeah? Look at my schedule here, Keith, and you tell me when I'm going to fit this in. Right? So the good news is that, hey, you're not alone, right? This is a very common issue. It's probably the biggest hindrance to not only trying meditation, but I think it really sticking, right? Because it is kind of a slow burn, and we have to find the solution that works for us. Sometimes we read, about this person who started meditating and they did this, and this, and this, and that sounds lovely, but that just might not really work for us, within our current situation. So we're going to get creative about how we can start to train in meditation in ways that we might not really consider to be meditation. And the big takeaway here, and Riley did hint at this earlier, the big takeaway here is that the only thing that is required, the only sequence that is required for something to be considered a meditative practice, the practice of meditation, is what? Choosing to focus on one thing, noticing when your attention drifts from it, bringing your attention back. Now, I know you've heard those 3 steps before because we just did them. All right. That's what we did in breathing meditation. So in breathing meditation, the object of our meditation is our breath. right? And so we choose to focus on it, make an active, intentional choice. We notice when our mind is thinking about dinner or something, and then we bring our attention back, right, to our breath. Breathing meditation. Now, what happens if you change the object of your meditation? Does it have to be your breath? No, it can be anything, right? Anything can be the object of your meditation, and thus anything can be a meditative practice, right? So, what we're going to talk about today are some things that we might already be doing in our life. They're already a part of our routine. They've made the cut on our busy, jam-packed itinerary. They're there. They're there already. They don't have to fight for space, right? So what if we think about some of those and then think about, how we might turn them into a meditative practice, enhance them, if you will, right? So there's a lot of examples we're going to talk about today. But it's not like, well, here are the list of things that work. Let me write this down. Keith said these are the only ones that work. No, anything will work. The only thing required for something to be a meditative practice is you actively, intentionally choose to focus on it single-pointedly. Notice when you are no longer doing so, bring your attention back. Right? That's it. So let's think about some things, right? Yoga. All right. Yoga's fun. I used to love going to yoga. I broke my wrist too many times. Now I have a little bit of trouble, but I should get back there. Now, yoga is very popular and often is linked with meditation. Why? What are you asked to do in yoga? I'll tell you what you're not asked to do. The directive is not, hey, welcome to yoga class. We are going to do a couple of maneuvers. We're going to put our body in these specific positions. And while you're doing that, I'd like you to just think about work. Right? This is not the directive of yoga, right? Mm. Yoga is a very intentional meditation on movement, right? So when you are taking a yoga class, you are being asked to do these very specific positions and really be there while you're doing them. And what I mean by that is focus single-pointedly on how your body feels doing these maneuvers, right? What does that sound like? It's meditation. It's the same thing, right? We are choosing to focus single-pointedly on our body moving. We are noticing when we are no longer focused on that single-pointedly, and we're bringing our attention back to it, right? So yoga is an example of meditating where the object of our meditation is a movement of our own body. Right? It's kind of a cool way of thinking about it. And so this is a great step towards starting to think differently about meditation, because meditation is something that travels well. It is like a chameleon for us if we want it to be. It can take any form that'll help us, right? If we just get a little creative. So maybe you don't like yoga, or you're like me, a couple biking accidents later, and that's not so easy. There's a lot of other movement-based meditation that you can do. Walking meditation is a very popular one. Now, if you were to don't do it, don't leave this YouTube channel, but if at a later time, when I'm sleeping, if you were to go on YouTube and be like walking meditation, you probably see a bunch of people walking around a room silently. It looks a little strange. But walking meditation does not have to be in a room like this. We can meditate on walking anywhere, right? And for most of us, we walk a pretty decent amount each day, right? We might not be power walking outside, but, we got to walk to the kitchen, right? At some point. And go to the grocery store, right? Grocery store is an interesting one. We get out of our car and then we're walking to the front door of the grocery store or work. We get out of our car and we're walking to the front door of work. And what are we thinking about? Oh my God, I have all these things I have to do for work, right? We're thinking about a lot of stuff. What if in this pretty short time between getting out of our car and walking to the front door of work, we're like, you know what? For this brief period of time, I mean, it can't be more than 30 feet, I am going to focus on how my feet feel as they make contact with the ground. That's it. That's the only thing I'm going to think about. I'm just going to kind of like be there and think about my feet pressing into the ground as I walk. And whenever I notice myself starting to think about work or something else, I'm going to be like, nope, not right now. We're focusing on how our feet feel as we walk. This is walking meditation. It's the exact same structure of breathing meditation. It's the exact same structure of yoga. It's just that we are now changing the object of our meditation to walking, right? Our feet. Movement-based meditations are really good because there's a level of, what's the word I want? There's a level of like being there, right? Like our body does things to walk, right? And it also doesn't have to be walking, right? I can lift my arm like this, up and down, very bizarrely like this, and this is I can meditate on this if I wanted to, right? But like in order to do this, there's some level of input that my mind needs to be involved in here. So movement's really good. Catherine, swimming. Oh, if you have access to a pool, swimming is a great one, right? A lot of like it's like a full, like almost like full body meditation, right? And there's so many things. Like swimming is such a cool example, right? And I think it's a really good example of how we can make the object of our meditation different within the same activity, right? So maybe you're swimming and you focus only on how your hands feel as they cup the water, or your feet feel as they paddle, kick, right? Or maybe we're just focusing on how the water feels like against our skin. There's so many different things that we can make the object of our meditation, right? And one of the cool things is when we're really single pointedly focused on something, we start to notice some things about that activity or sensation or whatnot that are a little more subtle, right? There's some like hidden joys in there, right? So swimming is a great one. Excellent. Okay. So what else? Maybe you don't like moving around. That's fine. I do a lot of sitting myself. We have plenty of other options here, and we can go back to old reliable, the 5 senses. You remember those? There's 5, I think. The 6th Sense is a movie. This is only 5, right? So there's taste. That's one of them. So how can we meditate with that sense? You ever hear of mindful eating? Probably. It's been around. So mindful eating, mindful drinking, whatever you want to call it, what the directive here is making eating or drinking the object of your meditation. So now when you eat, and each one of us eats here at least once a day, I would predict. What do you think about? Not eating. You're thinking about a lot of stuff. You're reading while you're doing it. You're thinking about work. You're looking at your phone. Very rarely are we like, I am going to eat and really only focus on how this bite feels. Like we just don't do that. I mean, maybe we go to like a fancy restaurant for the first bite or something. But what if we take this thing that we're already doing, multiple times a day, and we're like, hey, okay. So for breakfast, whenever for my first 3 bites of whatever I'm eating for breakfast, I am just going to focus on how this food tastes. That's it. The texture, is it cold, warm, rough, smooth? Like I'm just going to plug into what it's like to eat this thing for 3 bites. And that's it. Now, whenever I start thinking to myself, this is weird, or start thinking, oh, I got work to think about, right? We're just going to not right now. Bring our attention back. Meditation, right? It's the exact same. And it's not like, yeah, Keith, but breathing meditation is more potent than this. No, they are identical. So for some of us, sitting down and doing breathing meditation is challenging. It's uncomfortable at first. Maybe we're, hyper aware of noises and so this might be another avenue for us to try to get into meditation. And then we can, try breathing meditation again when we have built up a little bit more experience of this concept of single pointed concentration, right? Cool. What about smelling? Our nose. Oh, good old nose. Big candle household here. Got a lot of those candles around. And whenever a candle is lit, what do you say? You're like, it smells great. Hopefully. Maybe it doesn't. But, it smells wonderful. And then you go about your business, right? So what if the next time you light a candle, you're like, you know what? For about a minute here, whatever, I'm just going to close my eyes and focus entirely on what it's like to smell this candle, the aroma, the feelings I get from that. Is it like a sense of warmth that I get, right? What kind of I was going to say notes, but I think that's wine. You get it. The point is that we can take this thing that we maybe do regularly, light a candle, and turn it into a meditative practice, right? Maybe you don't like candles. Cooking is a great one. A lot of downtime when you're cooking. Normally that downtime is filled with looking at our phone or, doing whatever. What about just smelling the food as it cooks? We can meditate on that, right? And here's something that we probably do at least once a day. We got to cook food for ourselves and whatnot. And so if we were to turn this into our meditative practice, well, that's great. We don't have to add anything else to our busy schedule. That's the goal here, right? If at the end of this, you're like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. I'm going to try one of these things. I'm going to try the candle thing. But I haven't bought a candle in 20 years. I don't want you to do the candle thing because the whole point here is to take something that you already are doing regularly in your routine and layer on this meditative practice to it, right? We're not adding new things. We're not overwhelming ourselves. We're not feeling like our schedule is getting bloated. We are just making a slight adjustment to something we already do each day, right? What about some other ones? Music? Music's very interesting. Because most people do not listen to music and that's it, right? Most people are listening to music while doing other things, right? Driving or working, right? Which is awesome. Listen to some great music while we do those things. But that is kind of like a multitasking instance of music, right? So what about the next time we're going to listen to some music while we work? I'm going to be like, you know what? For the first 30 seconds of this song or whatever, I'm just going to close my eyes and really focus on the song, maybe the sound of the singer's voice or the instrumentation. Maybe we're like a drummer. We're like, I just love listening to the drums. We could do that. But just plugging in to this piece of music, right? We can turn that into a meditative practice, right? And then the last one that we'll talk about, I'm going to skip sight. That one's pretty obvious, I think. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip sight. But one that I think is really interesting, and I have personally gravitated more towards these when I would practice them, is the tactile kind of sensations. My favorite being brushing your teeth. That really kind of mundane activity that we do? That is a big part of our routine, isn't it? It's not very exciting. I can't say that brushing your teeth is very exciting, but it is a part of our routine. It's made the cut. What do we think about when we brush our teeth? Not brushing our teeth. We are thinking about like a million other things. So brushing our teeth is like a really cool like thing to turn into a meditative practice. The next time you brush your teeth, what if you were like, you know what, for the 2 minutes or whatever that I'm gonna brush my teeth or whatever. I don't know how long you're supposed to do it, 2 or 4 minutes or whatever. I'm just gonna focus on how the bristles feel as they make contact with my gums, or the sound of the bristles against my teeth and gums, right? We're turning something we're already doing into meditation, a very like potent, hopefully twice a day, meditation, right? That's an amazingly creative way of starting to incorporate this in your life. Mary, sewing. Oh, I love sewing. That's a great one, right? I say I love sewing. I'm a basic cross stitcher myself. But man, it's like very natural, right? To get into that kind of flow when you're sewing, right? If you're an artist, painting is a huge one. Like, artists like are really kind of honed in when they're painting. They're literally anything you do can be turned into a meditation. So it is your job. No, I shouldn't say that. You don't have to do anything. But if you want, I would encourage you to try to think about some things that are a pretty firm part of your routine, whether it's showering, getting dressed, all these things, and try one. See if you can turn it into a meditative practice and see how it goes. All right. So give brushing your teeth a try. Give mindful eating a try. You don't have to do it for the whole meal. Just, a couple bites. Maybe this is like a pretty low-key way for you to get into meditation, right? And again, it's equally as potent. It's equally as beneficial as anything else, right? And it's kind of fun. We can kind of like experiment a little bit, right? So I want to do a meditation with you guys now that incorporates some of this. Now, normally, if you're somebody who's been here for a while, I usually do a mindful drinking meditation. I'm going to change it up. We're going to do something even more, like, I guess, basic, you could call it. So we're going to do a meditation on holding something. Now, I am going to ask you to go and find an item to hold. Now, do not go and don't select the chair. Don't select the armoire, okay? Because I'm going to ask you to like hold it in your hand. So pick something light. You don't have to do anything too much. But it doesn't matter what it is, right? Can be anything, literally anything. I know you have something nearby, so just select that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to guide us through a meditation on this object. All right. And we're going to do some things like hold it and like investigate kind of the properties of it, with our senses. But our entire meditation is going to be based on this object, whichever one you've chosen. So it's a little bit of a variation on what we did before. Okay. And we're going to keep an eye out. Maybe there's some interesting things we're going to find about this. Then you can tell me what cool items you were holding. Okay. So just like before, make sure you're nice and comfy. Doesn't matter what your seating arrangement is, as long as you're comfortable. That's fine. That's perfect. Make sure whatever item you selected is within reach. Right. So if it's across the room, you can go grab that now. And you can go ahead and close your eyes. I'm going to guide us through another meditation. Just take a moment and check in with yourself once again. How are you feeling right now? We're not comparing it to before. Before is done. Only now. How do you feel? Just notice. We are just noticing, being an observer of our own mind. And having done that, just very briefly, we can focus on our breath a little bit just to get settled once again after our discussion. Just a little bit of breathing in and out, gently and naturally. And whenever your attention drifts, no big deal. You can just say, not right now, to those thoughts. And then guide your attention back to breathing. In and out. Very gently and very naturally. Allow yourself to relax. In breathing meditation, the object of our meditation is our breath. But we can select anything to be the object of a meditation. And so now we are going to do a meditation on that object you have selected. So what I'd like you to do is take that object that you selected and hold it. Put it in your hand. If it's larger, you can hold it with your full hand. If it's smaller, you can put it in the palm of your hand. Just hold it. What does holding this object feel like? Can you sense the weight of the object just by holding it? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it easily maneuverable? Or pretty firm in your hand? What does this object feel like? What about what this object is made out of? Can you think about those properties just by holding it? Is the material of this object smooth? Is it rough? Is it delicate? Or durable? What does holding this object feel like to you? Now, as you're holding that object, I'd like you to think about what function this object has. What benefit does it provide? What's its purpose in your life? And who made it? Who made this object that you have, that you selected, that you have close to you, that has all these properties you've identified and the function you've identified? How many people were responsible for creating this object? Maybe it came from a factory. People work at the factory, but people also build the machines. The materials used, rough or smooth, they were gathered by an individual or a group of people, refined, countless individuals responsible for creating this object that you are now holding in your hand. Just sit there with this object, with this notion of all these people involved in making it possible for you to have that object. Feel connected to the object, to the people that contributed to making it, and to every single property of what it feels like to hold this object in your hand. Okay. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hopefully you selected an object that was not too heavy. I did warn you. So that's a kind of like just spontaneous, I thought it'd be cool to do holding an object, right? So we randomly grabbed something on our desk or whatever, and we held it. And guess what? We do that a lot. We hold things all day long, but we do not generally meditate on holding a thing. And so here is an activity that we do many times a day that we have now turned into a little meditative practice, right? And this one, you might be like, yeah, I don't want to sit there holding an object. It's fine. But there's so many different things that we talked about today, so many different great things people suggested, and take some time. Rosa, were you preparing for the drinking water meditation? Did I fool you? Rose has been around here for a while, so she probably knew what was coming. So if you want to try some of these, take some time and think about what would be cool for me to do. Like, what's already a part of my routine? Try it, right? There's no right or wrong answer here. Cool. Okay, so that is our class for today. Hopefully you found that to be helpful or interesting or relaxing, or maybe all those things. If you did have a good time, I encourage you to come back. We do this every Wednesday, barring me having to go to something, some sort of event. And I encourage you to come back. We'll talk about some other meditation thing next week. And if you, I saw a couple people subscribe during the live stream. Thank you very much. It means a lot to me. Super helpful. we are getting close to like, I mean, I think we're at like 1,500, which, I know is not a lot for the grand scheme of YouTube personalities and stuff, but this has been such a cool journey. Especially like there's so many people who have been here since the beginning. It's so awesome to see this grow, and you've been such a big part of that. So thank you to anyone who chooses to subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It's literally you click a button and then, hey, I'm subscribed. And then you get notified whenever I'm going live, and you can look at all my old videos and all cool stuff. Lastly, if you are like, hey, it's pretty cool, I'm kind of into this. I do offer one-on-one classes. I do them virtually. They are pretty laid back. And the benefit of those is we can focus on something that's very specific to whatever reason brought you here. So maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's dealing with like a frustrating issue that you're having at work or something. Whatever brought you here, we can really kind of tailor to that. So if that is interesting to you, the one-on-one, or you just got any questions for me, or I don't know, you just want to say hi, you can email me at keith@meditationbreaks.com. I'm checking for spelling. That's why I'm buying time here. Okay. That's my email. Feel free to email me if anything comes up, or you want to think about doing a one-on-one, you want to learn more about it, you just email me and we can find a time to chat. All right. Rosa, thank you. You just got out of a meeting and jumped right in. Awesome. All right. Well, now you're going to have a great time going back. Catherine, thank you for the sub. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. It means a lot to me. Thank you. MB, thank you. It's very kind of you to say. Mary, thanks for being here. Antonio, thanks for being here again. Really, like, just an amazing group of people. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. I love teaching, and I couldn't do that without you. So thank you for being here. Have a great week, and I'll see you all next time. All right. Later.